I'll call this meeting to order. And I just want to say that before we get started, underneath unfinished business, the Lakeway update on Greenwood Acres property acquisition will be moved to non-public. And with no further ado, we'll have the Spirit Squad come in.
And where would you like us?
Pyramid.
Pyramid, wow. Still
Danielle?
Yeah.
Maybe they could introduce themselves, or
Do you want to, how do you want to?
Well, the camera's that way, so
We could look there.
There's audience
Is
there.
that camera's working?
So maybe sideways, we work well
So
sideways.
there you go.
Whatever.
So I'll just start. So what I do is I actually have a rec program that helps feed the high school called Littleton Cheer Magic. And what we use that program for is to feed the high school and the middle school. It is a program we do charge tuition, but we help to feed the middle school and the high school program. And it helps these girls be able to, and gentlemen, help these people be able to fundraise to be able to go to camp. So without that, we wouldn't be able to do any fundraising to get them anywhere. So with that, they were able to fundraise and get to cheer camp. Every year we go to Hassan College or University, and we go up to camp up there, and it's a 5-day camp, and they have different opportunities that they get to partake in. This year they actually placed second in one division, which happened to be the routine division, the performance. And then I entered them. I hadn't entered in Champion Chant for several years. I want to say back since no longer than that. It was probably since like maybe '09, and I decided, you know, we need to work on our motion technique. Let's enter Champion Chant, and we end up winning. So with a first place, a second place, we got a Team Herky award for working great together. We had a lot of individual awards. We had Tori who got Top All-American. So with all these awards, we got nominated as a team. So all 19 athletes that went with me were nominated to be able to go to the Citrus Bowl. So we came back home, we talked about it, and those athletes that wanted to fundraise to be able to go, because it's not super expensive, it's a good, about a good $1,000 to be able to go, and then airfare on top of that. Started the fundraising process. It's a short time frame to be able to fundraise that amount of money to be able to go. Any parents that went with us had to pay out of pocket, myself included. Any coaches, any other coaches that went with us had to pay out of pocket. I had 18 total, so 8 athletes, and then I had another 10 people that went with us, paid out of pocket, and we went, and I'll let them tell you about their experiences and introduce themselves. So, you want to start down there?
Oh,
Put you right on the spot.
what do I do?
Introduce yourself, so say your name and what grade you are.
Oh, I'm Andrew and I'm a freshman. And I had fun. And I learned new stuff.
Well, you had a different experience.
Yes,
Why
I had
don't
a
you share
different
your
experience
experience?
with everyone. They're all women. I got to learn a fancy dance, and then I had to go, and I got to stunt with the rest of we did co-ed stunting. I learned a lot with that stuff that I was able to use on the magic team as well as the varsity team. And it's actually helped me a lot throughout just that experience.
I'm Allie. I'm a junior, and I basically it helped me for this year to sharpen up my emotions and get out there and learn new things. Basically.
You also did what? You also, we got down there and you met?
Oh my gosh, I met so many people.
Yeah, from different parts of the world.
I met Addison from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I met 3 people from California.
Yes. A lot of different people.
I'm Tori, and I'm a junior, and I've had an experience like this before, but this one was kind of different, but I enjoyed it, and it was fun, and I met new people, and if we didn't go to cheer camp, I wouldn't have this opportunity, so I'm thankful for it, and it's really helped me this season.
I'm Celeste, I'm a senior. With going to Florida and being able to partake in this huge event. It was actually really fun. Like we did like meet a lot of people. We went to Disney. We did a lot of different things there. We met lots of different people, and we went through like a different thing. So usually we go through NCA, but for this it was UCA. And so that was different.
That's the company. That's the big company.
We'd never done anything with them before, and it was just like, it was a really different experience, and it was like something like obviously you wouldn't do something around here. It was like really cool getting out and like being able to experience something so huge.
Seeing you're enjoying talking, why don't you explain what the Citrus Bowl was? Because I didn't really touch on that.
The Citrus Bowl.
Thank you.
The Citrus Bowl is a college football game. It was a very large college football game between Penn State and Kentucky. Yeah, and it was a huge game, and pretty much there was mascots from all the different schools. Like if you had a mascot, you could bring your whole like outfit and whatever.
And they had their own routine.
They had their own little routine, and then there was the co-ed stunting, and they had their own section, and then there was like tons of
It was over 800 female
cheerleaders, like
dancers,
just
and
female.
you did have some males that could take part in
Yeah,
that.
they did have some males that did partake in the small, like the routine and whatever. But we got a uniform, and we got palms, and we were all put in like lines along this huge football field, and it was like 2 different sections, and each of us had our own motions, and there was like parts where like
4 parts. to
there
the
was
routine.
4 different parts. So like it was front, like this group, that group, this group, that group, and then there was 2 different sections. So it was like a lot to learn, but once you got the whole idea of it and you pretty much got the whole like gist of what was happening, it was like a great experience.
And they were the pregame. They were the pregame performance.
Yeah, so we
And there
were
was
before.
another group that actually came in and did the halftime, but they were by far
They
the
were
larger.
dancers.
They were dancers, but they were by far the larger performance
Yeah.
of the day. So we had much more. We had the larger group that performed, but it was interesting because we did the Orange Bowl with my oldest, and we did not have like the mascots and the co-ed stunting and then all the dancers. They just had the dancers. So this was actually even better. I felt it was absolutely incredible to see like the mascots and
and there was tons of different mascots
they
too.
highlighted them and singled them out, and they highlighted and singled the stunt groups out, and he was able to stunt with actually college athletes, which if we were to be with the NCA company, they typically don't do that for liability purposes, but he actually flew one of the college athletes, which was really impressive, and he learned some technique from that to single base and learn co-ed stunting. And then they had to learn their 4-part routine prior to even getting down there, which is very, very hard to do. And it was very intricate and very difficult. So we're like, Allie says it betters her motions. I think it actually says something because they actually had to learn this on their own because there's really no time to learn it.
From video, and we didn't have any of like the music or anything that we were going to. And they didn't tell us till we got there, but there was a huge inflatable football.
Yeah, they're like,
oh,
you have to be around this.
Surprise fireworks.
And fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks.
Right out
middle
there
of the
in
No, they're like,
about
if you
to
hear
get-
like a big bang, don't be too scared. Like,
And you didn't realize, like, you're thinking, oh, in the sky.
2 lines over.
Okay, it was like
right
just
next
there,
to
and it was
you.
like bang.
Right next to
You were just doing your motions. You were like, oh my gosh, okay, and you just keep
And
it together.
You didn't know about it until you were on the sidelines, like, oh, there's
Because
fireworks.
we didn't practice with the
way.
fireworks. They just those off.
Like 5 minutes before you were ready to go out. By the way,
There's
ignore the
fireworks.
fireworks going off. We're like, fireworks? Yeah, okay. Then you went on, and then the next thing you know, it was just fireworks, and you were like, it was
They
crazy.
smelled really bad.
They did. They did smell really bad.
I'm Morgan, and I'm a sophomore. Going to Florida was a really big experience, and I'm really grateful that I got to go. I met a lot of people, and I feel that it helped me in front of large crowds, not being so nervous and stuff. And
55,000.
Which is more nervous, this crowd or that crowd?
That crowd, 55,000.
that crowd, yeah.
It's all 50.
Jocelyn. I'm a junior. Going to the Citrus Bowl was really out of my comfort zone. I'm very shy. I don't like to talk in front of people. I don't like to perform in front of people. But I did it, and I felt like I've been able to do more this season, being more comfortable in front of a smaller crowd when I was comfortable in front of, like, say, 20,000 plus. So I feel that it really helped me in getting out there and doing something that I'm not ordinarily comfortable with. And I met a lot of cool people. I still talk to some of them, and they're like really nice people that I never would have met if I never got to go. So.
I'm Kaylee. I'm a junior. Going to the Citrus Bowl, I was actually really lucky to go because I was injured at camp, so I didn't really get to do anything. But I actually got to bond with all these people more because, especially with Andrew and Mia, because they're freshmen, they're new. Going there, I did get to meet a lot of people as well. I went to another thing in Florida as well, and this was a completely different experience. I actually got to meet a lot more people this time, and again, I got to practice being in front of a crowd and not be nervous so much. And yeah.
Okay. I'm Mia. I'm a freshman. I think that going to the Citrus Bowl, it was a really good experience for bettering your emotions and meeting new people and getting out there more. Again, with the 30,000 plus people that were there.
Keeps growing.
Really, it helps with your self-esteem, and I think with all the people I met, I still talk to a lot of them. There's 2 girls from California, there's 3 from Mississippi, 1 from Tennessee. You still talk to them, and I think it was good that you made friends and you can be able to have a cool experience like that. Like, how many people get to go to a football game and do a pregame show?
This is the first time I've ever been to an actual college football game.
Yeah.
And that's the other piece I think that was interesting for them is that we don't experience football up here.
Yeah.
So for us, football is not something that we know anything about or experience. So
I
for
experienced
them,
the Shrine Bowl. That
yeah,
was
correct.
Yeah.
You got to do that last year. So they really didn't know what to even expect. They're like, what line do you want me to stand on? What line am I on?
Yeah,
And
they're
I'm
like the
"You're on
40 line, and I'm
35th
like,
line." And they're like, what? So it was a very different experience, and it was this experience, like the last time when we did the parade, the coach really doesn't go. This time, the coach does everything with them. So like I'm up and I'm out with them at 7 o'clock, I'm with them for breakfast. It's almost like going to camp. I do everything with them. I sit and I'm with them at practices. I've got the EpiPen. I mean, she's allergic to I got the EpiPen with me, ready to race down on the field in case, it's needed. Things like that. So I'm right there with them. So it was a very, very different experience for everybody, but so incredibly different than what we've experienced before, and the programs are very, very different. I am a NCA, I love NCA, my daughter works for NCA, I love NCA, they're very organized. UCA, not so much. So we did have to have some patience with unorganization and learn how to tolerate and deal with that, and that's good experience to have to roll with the punches and just, handle being patient, and we all had to deal with that, and that's a good, a good tool and a good thing to experience. So I think they learned some life lessons while they were down there as well. They also, I think, learned to that their coach can really move very fast when she needs to. They were very surprised at how fast I can maneuver through the crowds at Disney to get them out when we need to get out fast and catch the bus. And that, I think, shocked many of them.
I was running there towards the
yeah. I may not run, but I can walk like I'm running. So, yeah. But we thank you very much for letting us come in and talk and share our experience, because it is definitely something not many get to experience, and definitely from the, I mean, they were shocked, northern where? Northern New Hampshire?
Yeah, every time we said New Hampshire, like, where, like, an hour
And a
from
lot of
Canada.
them had like
It's like right there.
And then when we mentioned like how many people at our school, like what is it, like almost like 400.
It was like
they're
only
like,
400.
they're like, that's how many
There
people are in
was-
my grade.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay.
Whoa.
There was somebody that they had the population of their school was larger than the population of our town.
I was like, oh god.
It's a great experience.
A lot of them were very like southern and like they had a whole different accent and
Where
they were
y'all
like,
from?
when we got there, they were like,
You talked
they
like
had
5 minutes.
they were like, you guys have different accents, and we were like, yeah. We were like, technically, you guys have accents to us, and they were like, no, you guys
What are you
definitely
talking
have
about?
I
accents.
talked to them for 5 minutes and I picked up the accent. I was
Yeah,
oh
you're
my
like
God.
picking up the accent while you're talking to them. They're like, gosh, I'm gonna go home and it's not gonna be okay.
Yeah, Andrew and I made
They're like,
friends.
what happened to you?
Yeah.
Everyone's drinking sweet tea now.
Yeah.
Andrew and I made friends with a girl from Tennessee named Madison, and we spent New Year's with her. And when we went back to our hotel room, we were like talking like we were from like Tennessee or something. My mom was like,
It was easily picked up, definitely.
It's easy.
Well, it sounds like you represented Littleton. very
Yes,
well.
we're very proud of you. Very good.
Thank you for letting us come.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Right, no,
"That was our
game.
highlighted meeting."
Good luck. Good luck in the future.
Next on the agenda is public input, any public input? Okay. Approval of minutes, we have January 22nd supplemental bond hearing, we're here a motion to approve.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. January 22nd supplemental budget hearing. Do we hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
January 23rd, school board meeting, motion.
So moved.
Second?
Any errors or omissions? I forgot to ask that the last two, but, okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then February 4th, school board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any errors or omissions?
I think there is one under the business report, the treasurer's report, it says table to January 18th, I think we meant February 18th, yeah, so.
Okay. So, motion to amend, who made the motion?
Motion to amend?
That's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the manifests are going around. I don't think we have a treasurer's report tonight. No, we don't.
No, I was hoping to have it tonight, but Tom's still absent, so
Okay.
he's still recovering, so we'll have it, I hope, the next meeting.
Thank you.
Probably have two then, so.
Thank you. So, discussion of deliberative session under unfinished business.
Well, I requested that on the agenda, I guess, just any thoughts anybody has, and anybody in the room, by the way. I think pretty much, not pretty much, I think everybody in this room was actually at that session. Things that we heard that we need to take special note of.
I heard all positive things. I heard that we were much more organized this year. Our information packets were very informative. I heard good things, which is nice. Thank you.
It was a good lively debate.
Yes?
And have you spoken with anyone that spoke up that night? Have you had any
A
contact
few,
with anyone?
yeah, and I think that, certainly not everybody, but I talked to a few of the participants, and certainly, there's probably some surprise, that there was as big a crowd as there was. I think that was a bit of a surprise for some people. Although by the time it got to the end, it had thinned out considerably. But there was a great turnout for certainly the first half or so of the deliberative session. I think that again, I think that the people who attended were happy with the documents they were provided with. I think they were pleased with with what's been made available on the website. I've had some comments on that too. That people are beginning to access the Hot Topics tab and pay attention to some things through the website a little bit that help them prepare for the session. Only other comment I heard was it was too long. But you know, I guess it's all relative.
I felt like that when I started talking at about
Yeah.
10:05. It's been a while since I started a presentation at that time of night.
Well, you know, when you think about how many hours we put in preparation for preparing the budget and the hours it was put in preparation for that night, it really wasn't all that much. But it was a good 3+ hours. I know that.
No, I think that the hard work that you and the administrative team did over the whole fall, kind of trimming down the budget, really looking at your budget closely. And then I know I made phone calls kind of in the 11th hour, the day before the deliberative session, as I was putting together my notes for the discussion. You know, I reached out to Jen, I reached out to you, I reached out to a number of people, kind of just getting some details. And I think it was kind of clear when we did our actual general budget that we didn't have a lot of questions from the floor about what certain line items were, why there were increases. So I certainly think that, you know, in years to come, if we can be that prepared, then it does leave time for the bigger items to be debated well. And I didn't feel that because we spent so much time in those first two items that we kind of lost the crowd with the general. I think they were still engaged. I think they were still, you know, some questions asked. I just think that we were better prepared as a whole district. So
I would say so.
So thank you to the administrative team and yourself, Steve.
A lot of hours, a lot of meetings, a lot of work. But it paid off, I think.
Yeah, thank you to the board.
You're welcome. So any further on that? So the next one would be under new business, discussion of commission on controlling costs, which was a budget committee's.
It's a very fancy title.
Yeah, where did that title come from?
Yeah, where did that come from?
I don't remember that.
I made it up.
Okay.
Pretty much. You gotta call it something.
That's news.
You gotta call it something. But there was talk of establishing a commission, which I think is important. That came out of the last meeting we had with the budget, town budget committee, and part of the goal of that committee, or charge of that committee, would be to look at our budget. Perhaps there might be some involvement with the town as well, but this specifically was directed, requested of us, and for looking at you know, ways to, I guess, to answer some of the questions that continue to linger about our cost per pupil, which you know, I think Mr. Brooks, you know, put a lot of time and effort into raising that question, bringing that to the front, and I think certainly devoted a good deal of time trying to explain it. But I think beyond that, I think the question is legitimate. We need to look at why our cost per pupil is what it is, and I think there's some things that have emerged already that helps explain that. Revenue, you know, the state doesn't really take into account revenue. There's some other things in there that we do that probably artificially raises our cost per pupil without actually showing up on the actual other side of the equation, which is the actual cost to fund the school. So I just wanted to, I guess with the board, seek support, approval, consensus, that we're on board with supporting the study, supporting the effort at least. We'll see once something comes in very specific form in terms of the goals, the structure, the process, as to whether we can support all of that. But I think hopefully we would agree to support the goal, which is to look at how we control costs going forward and sustain our budget in a way that's doable.
I think that there needs some criteria to be established.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, you could go all over the place and not get what you need to know. you know, it's also about programs.
Yep.
How many programs we have, so on and so forth. So that's the only concern I would have is,
Have you had any further input from Mel or anyone else on the budget committee on when they're looking to start this, who they're looking at? and-
No, I think they were waiting a little bit to, first of all, to see that the board was supportive of the concept. And I guess that's what I'm seeking as much as anything, so I can go back to some of these groups and say, yeah, we're in, but let's put this together
Now, you
in the
said
form of a
groups.
proposal.
Which groups are you talking about, Steve? Because I kind of heard something, when I was at that meeting, I heard more looking at Mel's study in depth is kind of what sort of
I
I
think
remember
that-
the discussion was, and then you're mentioning another group besides the budget committee? Or
I think that the idea was, that night at least was to, well, I shouldn't say that night, but the idea is to look at our costs and potential for controlling those costs. And again, I think the impetus for that certainly was some of Mel's work that he shared with the community. I think if we may or may not want to move beyond that sample of schools that he used. We may want to simply stick with that study. I don't know, again, until I get a little bit of more interaction with the budget committee and perhaps Mel and some other interested individuals who might want to be a part of this. I don't know that I can say a whole lot more about it other than I guess tonight I'm simply seeking some input from the board regarding the questions that I need to ask, and and how we feel about supporting this process. I don't know if that answers your question. Probably not that well, but.
well, I just when you said groups, I was wondering about the groups, but I just thought
Well,
maybe didn't know about one of the groups that you were talking
community
about.
members,
So
exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ann that I'd really like to see a clear outline for,
Of course.
For the group and how the membership would be made up.
Yeah.
I guess I will just say, I think the board has been quite concerned with controlling costs.
Of course.
And has done a lot of press back, this
Yeah.
kind of this give and take between the administration and the board of trying to come to something we can all live with. So, so I don't think this is anything terribly new, I guess would be my 2 cents on that, so.
Yeah.
I think perhaps that the board could think about this and think about what criteria that we should establish and maybe bring it back next time, or whatever you want to do. Hand us hand up.
We're talking about the formation of a group under the school board or under the budget committee?
I think it would be cooperatively, correct? If I remember the.
That would, yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, it
Some type
wouldn't
of
be
a
under
joint-
either
some
one,
type
it
of a
would just be a
joint commission.
cooperative effect too.
I don't think, I think calling it a group and calling it forming a group, another group is maybe not. I'm all for doing the work on this. I mean, we always try to control our costs. I mean, by stating it here, it's like, oh, let's control our costs. We've been controlling our costs, or trying to. So cost per pupil is, I thought, something you wanted some input on and things like that, but in generalization.
Oh, I think certainly I would push for that group, that commission group, whatever it is, committee, to look very carefully at that data. I mean, certainly to begin with, because like
That
I
was the
said.
start of the conversation,
Yeah,
was that we were going to
But we need
analyze and we were
validation.
gonna validate
Yeah, I think
Mel's
so.
findings,
And
because
some of
it's-
the,
Perhaps that's what the board needs to do, is analyze the data first, to validate the findings before a group is started, or a commission, or whatever we call it, underneath the school board.
Yeah,
That's a lot of data.
I know it's a
The
lot.
reason I asked that question is,
Uh-huh.
if you use the word commission, that has a very specific meaning, and one I'm not sure you want to characterize this group as. At least on the town side, if you form a commission, the commissioners are elected, and the commissioners have their authority to spend money. I don't think that's what you're looking at.
No.
Stay away from
I'm
it.
not.
I think
That word,
I mean, I know that at the budget committee, I kind of came away that they were looking to do like kind of a subcommittee of the budget committee and the school board. That could be made up of members of both as well as interested members of the community, particularly somebody who's,
Yeah.
you know, somebody who's got a specialty in budgets or somebody who's got a specialty in accounting or in,
Yeah, I think
you
you're
know,
right.
That's what.
and really and the key, what I took from the meeting is that the key goal was to validate Mr. Brooks's report.
That's
And either come away with a better understanding of the report and finding areas that, hey, we might have some room here to ratchet down on, or find validation that, no, we're unique because of these reasons, and whether they're related to special ed or they're related to other reasons. So that next year, going forward with the budget committee, as well as we get into the next year's deliberative and next year's hearing, we have better information when people begin to ask those questions. And hopefully at that point, you know, we've either come to agree with Mr. Brooks or Mr. Brooks has come to agree with us. Would kind of be my goal by the end of that subcommittee. And that we either agree with his report or he agrees with our validation of it, where pieces may be valid and some pieces may not be.
Well, there's, like I said, you start looking at the, if in fact this particular gathering of people starts with the work that Mel did, then, you know, I think you start looking at a lot of different factors. I mean, I just for the fun of it decided, okay, so the numbers are the numbers. We have the highest cost per pupil of the 7 schools in the study. And I need to make a few more copies. Only one. Do you mind, Patty? Could you make a few for the? Yes, if you don't. Yeah. Administration. So you know you look at our cost per pupil. It's by far the highest of the group of 7. And then you go over and start looking. Okay, that's one thing. Then you look at the actual tax rates of the group of 7, and it tells a different story. In fact, we're by far the lowest of the group of 7. It's not even close. I mean, our tax rate, our school tax rate, our local ed tax rate, $11.62. Hopkinton is $21.95. I didn't do the mean there, but if you want to talk about standard deviations, we're well below the mean. So everyone always says, oh, but if we didn't have more dam, we would be up the creek. Well, that would be a terrible blow. I'm certainly not making light of it, but even without more dam, even without, and it's not just more dam, utilities in the calculation, the tax rate is 1666. It's the lowest of the 7, except for Milton. So to me, there's a very interesting question to be asked. Why is there such a disconnect here? It's a strange combination, and I think there's some reasons for that. Revenue, I can easily see as part of it, explains part of that away, but it's an interesting, to me, it's an interesting set of numbers.
I might not understand what you're talking about. I know I read through the paper, I'm just a parent here.
Yeah, good.
I
Thank you
read
for
through the
coming.
paper what you guys were trying to do, and I have learning disabilities myself, and luckily for me, I only have one child that has one. So I was watching the news last weekend, and they have a thing, it's called Project Community. You can find out about it from www.mur.com. I don't know if that's anything that might help with what you guys are discussing, because I have comprehension problems, so it's hard to understand, but it's just, you know, there might be something helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Project Community?
Yes.
And may I ask what your name is, please, so for the,
Pup.
your name, please?
Melissa LaLumiere.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, and I guess, thank you, Steve, for pulling this information. I think this is certainly a piece of the puzzle, of understanding it. I think it's important to look at the programs that these different communities are offering as well as the results that those programs are giving. I think that's another piece of the puzzle. Mr. Rossi spoke about that when he spoke at the deliberative session about, you know, what are our results, how do we compare to other communities, so I think that's something that people are interested in as well. So I think there's a lot of different facets that could be looked into. I'm not crazy about the name commission of the cost control. You know, I think it's, you know, so, and
I just used the language I think that was used that night.
Yeah.
Those
well, I may not have.
words are important.
But I think the board agrees that we're interested in doing this. I don't know, I mean, I think we are.
I think we are.
Yeah,
So-
great.
We just have to change the name of the game and get the criteria done. Okay. There's no further comments on that then. Kelly Nolan? You have a report?
So enrollment was up a little bit. We have 142 identified students as of last week. And then I attached 3 different documents to my report, just the guidance for special education aid, chapter 402, which is court ordered placement, and then the parent involvement executive summary. We haven't gotten our results for last year, or it goes out at the end of the year, so I haven't seen Littleton's specific data. Typically our responses, because it's voluntary, is pretty limited, so we don't often get a lot of information from that, but as soon as I get that, I'll share it with the board.
Okay.
And I don't know if you had any questions on the special education or 402 information. It's just how they arrive at what those costs are.
Okay.
I did read that over, and so do you use the base, I mean, you know the ins and outs of who we have placed and what, so do you anticipate that we will get some funds from this?
We'll have some for special education aid. The 402 costs, we won't exceed that amount, so we probably won't have any.
We won't exceed
Not for the
that-
court placement.
that three times the cost, the average.
For special education
Yeah.
aid, we will.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have the 3 students that are placed will exceed that amount. It will vary because they've been placed at different points in the school year, so. And we will see that, that'll be realized in next year's budget.
Okay.
Right, because it goes through June 30th, so who we have placed now will actually see that money in the next fiscal year.
It looked like in some instances, the DOE actually paid the invoices for
That's
once you
for
reach a
chapter
certain threshold.
402, so yes, for kids that are placed by the court,
Yeah.
once we reach a threshold, we no longer pay invoices, we send them to the state and they pick up the costs
Okay.
on 402 kids that.
Yeah, meet that. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah,
getting
there's a lot
everything
in there.
inputted into the state properly.
Yeah.
Getting any invoices sent timely, because it seems like that's, after reading all those regulations, it seems like if you don't do that, you do not get the money.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
So what we've gone from 128, 126 in September to 142.
Yes.
Is that about 20% of our student body
I was just
now?
gonna say, I think.
That's,
Is that-
Yeah, it's,
let's see,
well,
we're 18.3
it was
with the
18,
state report.
yeah. It
But
was.
I just
and
did
we
the
had
math today, actually, likewise 23%.
I'm gonna say it's certainly higher than that.
Probably 21.
Okay, yeah, I was
Lakeway's 23.
doing some chicken scratch and got about 20%, but, okay. A lot.
I think it was, 4 or 5 years ago, we were at 144. And then you have some kids that graduate, so the number decreases some, but, yeah.
But we had more people then, too, you know,
Yeah,
so
we
the
did.
percentage is
Yeah.
different.
Oh, yeah,
Now
the
we have-
percentage was different, but
Now
not
we
the
have
same.
fewer students and
So a lot of kids,
increasing
though.
numbers. Yeah.
That's an example of, that's an example of
Right,
where do the
it's
other districts on
obvious.
this report lie with
Yeah,
regards
that's what
to,
scares me about those.
you know, particularly the placement and particularly, you know.
140.
Thank you, Kelly.
I heard you said you're looking for funds for the classroom, is that what you're looking for? Is funds for the classroom?
Oh, no, that was for our state report.
Oh,
The
well, I have something else, I got this from a friend, and it's for tax credit, for communities, vets and things like that, and you can get up to $9,000 towards what you need to, so I figured it might be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jennifer.
Enrollment stays the same from January to February at 352. If you have any questions about the enrollment, you can certainly ask. Our students and families received a generous donation from Vital Communities for $3,470. That's a group that believes that no student should have to pay for lunch. So they've looked at the account balances and that payment's been applied to the students that are in need of that support. Mrs. Haney has taken a job at the Littleton Regional Hospital, Director of Volunteers, and we celebrated her time with us. I put some pictures in there for you. Monday, February 11th, Steve had hosted a meeting with the Hispanic families in town. That was great to attend. I learned a lot about how pleased they are with our educational approach. They've come from places where their children have been immersed in Spanish-speaking classes to learn, and through high school, middle school, that they're not getting that language piece. So it was nice to have that positive interaction with those families. 13 of our Crusaders participated in the Penguin Plunge. One of our seniors did it for the 4th time. This year they raised over $3,000. Joe DePalma was named the Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce Student of the Year at their annual meeting in January 24th. Laney Hadlock scored her 1,000th point, February 1st. We are looking at schedule shifts a little bit for next year. I wanted to update you on what some of that looks like to benefit our students in math specifically. Next year, we've been able to figure the schedule out so that our 7th graders have 82 minutes of math class every day all year. And the advanced math learners will be enrolled in the pre-algebra curriculum in 7th grade. We're also able to provide 82 minutes daily for our 8th graders who need that extra math support to be ready for algebra as freshmen. In the math curriculum, we're shifting to be that pre-algebra curriculum in 8th grade. And knowing some of our students will be ready for algebra next year, so they'll be able to look forward to that. We are looking at developing a scholars track for our middle schoolers. So it's a work in progress right now, but we're getting there. Our art students created pieces of art to the theme of The Little Mermaid Under the Sea, and that was displayed at Plymouth State College this past month. Brandon State Challenge team, if you
I wondered
haven't
if you were going to
watched
mention that. I
them,
watched it.
if
It
you
was so
have
fun.
that, it's so exciting.
It was awesome. I'm sitting in the living room going,
And they got questions that I have no clue
oh,
about.
yeah. We won't even go there, Jeff.
So they're moving on to the quarterfinals, I think, in another 4 or 5 weeks. I think there were 7 weeks between as they go through the brackets, but
That's cool.
they are on the quarterfinals.
They beat Bo, that's all.
We received our draft of our NEAS, our NEAS report draft came in.
not the finalized one, but our leadership team's working with our teachers on establishing our goals and beginning our work towards meeting some of the areas that we needed to work on.
Will the board be getting a copy?
Yeah,
of
when
that?
it's finalized.
Thank you.
He sent a draft last week, and we're just confirming the accuracy of the data that he shared to make sure he's not misspeaking. We'll send that to him this week, so it came later than anticipated. It didn't come till, it was supposed to come in January, so there's some delays on their end.
Okay.
But you will get that.
Okay.
Our guidance department continues to work with our seniors. All seniors received the Littleton Scholarship application. That's the application they need to complete in order to be eligible for some of the scholarships that are provided, the $300,000 worth of scholarships. So they've received that support. At March 30th, we've shared with the families of our seniors the Plymouth State College opportunity called Destination College. It's a workshop on Saturdays for seniors and their families. We had a recent Crusader Community Collaborative on Tuesday, January 29th. We had conversations regarding our next steps in our competency work and growth. We'll put together a team that includes the different representatives from different groups, begin that work in March. We've got Ellen Hume Howard coming mid-March, so it'll be good to use her as well for some of that work. Above the Notch Community School received a grant from Walmart that's allowing our life skills and our inquiry class run by Mrs. Chase to do some hot food for the Above the Notch students in between their sessions. They have class from 3 to 8, so they're able to provide some hot food for them. This year, our Winter Carnival dance was at the Opera House. That was an exciting partnership.
Why was that, Jen? How'd
Why
they
was
happen to
that?
go to the opera?
The size of the dance is smaller compared to the size of our gym. So we looked at other options that might make it a little bit more formal. The student council coordinated that. I just supported that and encouraged them. So that was student-led. Crusader Pride hosted the Pierre Lafitte Memorial Basketball Tournament for middle schoolers on February 2nd. That was a success. And just a reminder, I think I've said it, maybe I haven't said it before, Toastmasters Youth Leadership Program's offering a public speaking class financially supported by All Saints to all of our high school students. So still trying to recruit students to attend that free opportunity. And that's, there's more in my report if you have questions about anything. Those are the highlights.
I guess for you.
Yes.
Do you have any students at the high school, like ladies that have a hard time affording a dress for the prom?
We have prom dresses
Yes.
that are in storage and available to them.
Another one to check on in North Stratford is called Project Princess.
I will check into it, thank you.
And I can get the information for you.
Good, thank you so much.
Thank you. Al?
Alrighty, some of the highlights that we'll be involved in the next month or so. Industry and post-secondary connections. At the time of this submission, we were planning to go to a meeting at NHTI this week, Steve and I, because it was postponed initially. NHTI on the dental pathway has been postponed again. You see that's the original date of the 24th. It was supposed to go this coming Thursday. So we're trying to find a date to do that. I have been attending, not all, but most. I don't know if you're aware of the North Country Healthcare Sector Workforce. It's a group that meets monthly out of Whitefield, trying to really develop pathways for local high school students and college students into the health workforce, because there is such a need. Keene State has become very interested in working with CTC centers with articulation agreements, so that's new. They've been a little reluctant in the past, but there certainly seems to be a lot of interest, so that's something that we're investigating and hopefully developing some agreements with them as well. Every year, through the CT Center and through the guidance department, we take all the juniors to Plymouth State University for a tour and talk about the application process, so they're well aware of it prior to their senior year. Girls in Technology Day, this is a program scheduled for 9th and 10th grade girls. We are planning to attend March 22nd. Mark your calendars, because the past 2 years that's been canceled due to snowstorm, so we're not in the woods yet. We'll be hosting a North Country Advisory Meeting. That's the ELO workplace learning. That's a cooperation between Littleton High School, Profile, and Lisbon. We've been meeting probably on a monthly basis. People who are in charge of ELOs in those schools, I meet with them and talk about different opportunities for kids and share placement opportunities. So our kids in the North Country have some great opportunities in terms of internships and workplace learning. And this is very busy now statewide. There's a lot of work that's happening in Concord with lawmakers, and there's a discussion actually tomorrow about some of these options. You've heard the commissioner talk about many of these options, so it is changing a little bit. Hopefully in the future there might be a little more funding available to help support these internship programs. White Mountain Community College in Berlin, they have their open house April 16th. We typically bring juniors and seniors up to that. If students are interested in some of those programs, they can register at the site the 16th and waive any registration fees. So some of our seniors will be looking forward to that as well. And you heard me talk about trying something different now. Actually with the 3 high schools I mentioned and White Mountain Regional, trying to have a regional career fair. Typically we host a career fair every year, trying to expand that. This year looking at maybe Bretton Woods as a site. But we're trying to figure that out, but we have picked a date of April 30th. So if it's not there, it may be still at our high school. But we're trying to bring more businesses in the North Country in to present. So students see that there are many more options. In the past, the vendors there or the careers have been great, because we've had over 50 businesses and industry partners attending those, but just expanding those. And hopefully, after students go away to college, if they return, they'll see that there are many opportunities here in the North Country. That's the goal anyways. Professional development and program improvement. This is a busy time of year, of course, for myself going out to schools, encouraging schools to attend and visit our CTC Center. We've hosted tours from Lisbon. I've been out to Profile, just presenting our programs. We're going to schedule a time with them. And on the 8th, I believe, Grofton will be attending and working on some other dates as well for the regional. So, trying to showcase our programs to boost enrollment. And I mentioned North Country Health Care Sector. Bill Demers, a former instructor, of course, is part of that organization, and been willing to provide our present instructor, Roger Daigle, with some much needed training and PD on a SimMan. And both teachers, as I mentioned before, are going to 2 days of training at Dartmouth, so they should be up to speed on that. As you remember, years ago, Bill Church was a science teacher in the high school, was very involved with Lego. Lego in Denmark, huge business promoting software, not just the Lego toys that you may be familiar with. But we hosted a visit from one of the leaders in that company, and very interested in developing new technologies in auto. So he's been over, spent some time with us, and Bill Church continues to work with us. So maybe some prototypes that we could try and see where they go. So that's pretty exciting to be part of that. And just some program updates. Little Leopards in conjunction with Lakeway, great partnership there, a lot of communication. Have planned a family fun night for incoming kindergarten students on March 6th. Kind of meet the teachers, play a few games, get them associated with Lakeway. Again, that's the whole event is being planned together, which is really nice. Again, talking about teacher education, trying to promote teaching outside of the preschool, because sometimes people associate the program just with the preschool. And it is true that Teacher One is very involved in developing lesson plans and activities in the pre-K. But Teacher Education 2 students are completing this 6-week round of apprenticeships, and they're really all over in a variety of schools in the North Country. So a lot of communication there, obviously making sure that they're showing up and doing what they should be doing. Certainly want to thank, in our system, teachers from Lakeway and teachers from all over the North Country for hosting high school students for those 6 weeks. This is a time of year that there's a lot of competitions. Skills USA, for example. So our auto students will be involved in auto mechanics March 18th. And this is the first time we've been involved in the diesel competition. It's something that a few of the students are very involved in and want to compete in the diesel competition. Health science, just to let you know, they've completed, all the students who were interested in preparing for the LNA have completed their 60 hours of long-term care and have started their 30 hours of acute care. And obviously that's a total of 90 hours. If they pass the LNA assessment, they'd be licensed to perform those duties in any state. So that's a huge bonus for students going off to college in different states and want a part-time job. Host of students will be attending their competition March 21st, and the digital video class is in the process of developing a YouTube channel. So we can see there, or we can see the principals report on a weekly basis. And that's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Eric, you're gonna report for
Yep.
Crystal?
So first section, enrollment, down a couple of students this month, actually lost another one today. In terms of curriculum, staff development, we also had Bill Church stop by Lakeway for a day, and during that day he met with all different teams of teachers where they looked at the computer science standards and how to integrate that throughout the curriculum. So that was a good productive day at Lakeway, and then we kind of followed that up with at our staff meeting, looking at the computer science standards, and then looking at all of our other standards in math, ELA, technology, and where there's overlap, and looking for connections in what we're already teaching and how we're going to implement those new computer science standards. Last, we have our 3rd grade team heading to Orlando for the UDL Summit, and they're going to be presenting some of the things that they're doing in the classroom based on some of the UDL professional development that they've received. So they're a little nervous about it, but they are ready to go. Personnel, we had filled our school social worker position, part-time position. She started last week, and she's already very busy, and we'll keep her that way. Community events. During the break next week on Wednesday, we have 2 tours open to the public, 6 o'clock on February 27th. Our 5th graders are going to be going to Cannon Mountain for skiing, all equipment and rentals and lessons are all free thanks to the Secret Sock Society, and that's happening on March 7th. Our DI team hosted a dance party last week, I think it was, 2 weeks ago, and the funds to that was to be raised for the Littleton Dog Park. It was a great success. We had over 100 students show up and raised over $800, so it was a great night and everyone had positive things to say about it. We have 5 DI teams that are going to be heading to Meredith for the DI competition, and that's going to be on Saturday, March 9th. We're going to be hosting an Alice parent training on Wednesday, February 20th. It's going to be at 5:30 at the Lakeway Library, and that's going to be run by Matt and Greg over here. This week is our Kindness Week, and we have a themed dress-up day for every day. Tomorrow is tie-dye day, so I guess we'll be dusting off one of my old tie-dyes. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. Being a parent, I have several moms that I, interact with during the week. And also, there's been some concerns. I have one mother that could not come tonight because of medical issues, and she wanted me to bring this up. Her child and 4 others are being bullied. And I specifically walk with her son to and from, so that does not happen. And it concerns me because bullying's a lot different now than it ever used to be when I was in school. And it concerns me that those who walk to school should not have to worry about bullying. It's, it just concerns me in general, not only being a mom, but also having a child that goes to school. And for example, when my daughter went to school to profile, she didn't like changing in the room after gym, and she walked in to her friend trying to hang herself because of bullying in a high school at Profile. And when my daughter came to me about that, at first I didn't know what to say. And I got my daughter into counseling, and which helped her friend get into counseling. But that helps, but there's still emotional scars on that. And I like to see something more done on that, because there could be students, high school or high school or elementary school, that might be dealing with those. And if they weren't addressed by the teachers, and I understand teachers, you guys are busy, I get that, but it's very close to my heart. I had a friend of mine who died because they were bullied when I was going to high school. And I don't want to see that for the kids. Our kids are our future, and they shouldn't be bullied, and it's at all. It doesn't matter what age they are, and it's an epidemic, and it's a concern to me. So I don't know what I should do as a mother, but for one student, I'm making sure that that doesn't happen to and from school.
You need to follow you gotta give her some guidance here.
Yeah, we highly encourage the reporting of bullying, whether it happens in the school or out of school. I'm actually the one who usually takes those reports, and so if there is a student who feels like they're being bullied, the office is open, they need to come in, report it to me, and I complete an investigation.
Okay.
And do what we can to put an end to it.
And I think the schools really encourage good communication with the parents, so this friend who you're talking about who couldn't come tonight, I would really encourage her to contact the school, because those are just the things that people really wanna know, you know, and so that two-way street is just so critical, so I'm glad you're following up on it, so, but I know people will respond if they're contacted.
Well, the hard part is the last time this child was bullied, was off of school, she tried to tell one of, a teacher or a principal or even another parent, and nothing was done, and nobody was listening to her.
So I think if the parent of this child can make a call to the school, I think that'll be, because I don't know the age of the student, but I know that our administrators will respond to that, I know they will.
Children react
So-
differently, so
and
the
so-
information getting back to you might be a little different than the way it actually happened, so it's, yeah, I think it's really imperative that an adult get involved, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bellany, are you the last one?
Go back there.
I'll stand up.
There you are.
Lakeway teachers are closing out on the second term, and report cards are going home this Friday communicating student progress on academic and the LEPERT competencies. And as Eric had mentioned, all teachers are in the process of reviewing, familiarizing themselves with the new New Hampshire computer standards. And they, as he also mentioned, performed a crosswalk between those standards and their academic standards and the specialist standards, seeing where we are meeting some of them already. And that's not necessarily in the sense of meeting those standards on the computer, but some of the things that those standards are talking about, like patterns or sequencing, and where we might be teaching those kinds of things in other academic areas, so we can kind of build off of that as we relate it to computers. Let's see, collaboration has begun to plan our spring testing sessions, and definitely at Lakeway and also at the middle and high school, we're going to have a week of testing for the New Hampshire State Test. A different week, 1 week at the high school, 1 week at the elementary school, so that we can really focus our attention on the New Hampshire State Test instead of in the past we've done it where one grade level does it 1 week, another grade level does it another week, so we really kind of want to do up that testing week. And then teachers are continuing to strive to make learning engaging for students in implementing the UDL framework. And at the middle and high school level, our 8th graders just successfully participated in the NAEP test, which is the National Assessment of Educational Progress. It's something that we get chosen for randomly. We happen to be chosen almost every other year. So this year, it was our 8th grade students. The whole 8th grade participated. Some took the math assessment and some took the reading assessment. And the proctors said that our students were very well behaved and just commendations for their efforts and behavior.
Great.
Middle and high school teachers are also collaborating to develop a school-wide reassessment and late work policy to assure consistency across all areas and provide essential opportunities for students to find success. And vertical teams are continuing to focus on formative and summative assessments, sharing performance assessments and rubrics, and maintaining rigor in their instruction. And professional development, all of our teachers worked with Karen Hess last month, and both schools focused on providing learning opportunities that promote greater depth of knowledge. And we will have a follow-up session with Karen on our staff day at the end of March.
Mel, how do they work? I mean, that's a lot, all the teachers work with Karen. How does she do that?
So it was 2 different days.
Oh, okay.
And at the high school, we have our every other week block meetings. So we just ran that same format, and she worked with the high school, middle and high school teachers during those blocks, basically during their plan blocks.
Okay.
And then at the elementary school, we had grade levels working together for an extended time, so we kind of had rotating subs. So we
Oh,
had
okay.
subs that watched like the first
Well,
grade,
that
second grade
explains that. I
classrooms
wondered how
and
they
moved
pulled that off,
to
yeah.
the next ones, yeah.
Okay. All
So,
right.
and I believe for the March day, she'll work with the middle and high school for half the day, and then the elementary for half the day.
Okay.
Thanks.
And, let's see, our UDL implementation specialist will be joining both of our UDL teams, the Lakeway one and the Crusader UDL team. She's working with the Lakeway teachers this Thursday and with the high school teachers in March to perform our first round of instructional rounds, and that is, instructional rounds is an opportunity for our teachers to do peer observations of each other, and the focus will be on identifying expert learning in the classroom, and then it'll be followed by an afternoon session, debrief session of what we saw. It's not focusing on any teacher in particular, but kind of making generalized observations about UDL and what's happening in the schools and in the classrooms. And then the last thing I had was about our third grade team presenting at the big symposium in Orlando, Florida. So,
Thank you.
What does UDL stand for?
Universal Design for Learning.
Awesome.
Okay, committee reports, personnel, do you have any reports?
We have a meeting coming up.
Wednesday at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, that, did we all agree finally on
Yeah.
that? Okay, Wednesday, 2 o'clock.
Wednesday's gonna be a busy day, at least for you.
Wednesday is, well, yes, it is.
Facilities meeting will be March 1st at 7:30.
You know, and Dale did have a report in here.
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't know.
I've read it.
Okay.
So,
One of the things from the last facilities meeting was figuring out where we're gonna find the funds to pay for this roof patching. And I didn't know if we've had that information, if anyone's looked into that, Steve. I know Dale's not here, that was on his action list.
There's a tarp on it.
I haven't heard back what progress he made with that.
Inducted.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
just
I
still,
was gonna talk to Tom. so
it's
I
still
think-
pressing, I would
Yeah.
say, just to remind,
Yeah.
we need to get
I
that
was gonna
figured
talk
out.
to him if he had any ideas.
We gotta
Yeah,
fix the
I
roofs.
do have some information from somebody else, which also went to Dale, but it looks like we have money, perhaps in one of our infrastructure funds that won't be used because there's a little more in it. So that's a possible way we
Do you want
can get
to
the
read it?
18,000.
No, I'm not saying we have to read it, I'm just saying
Well,
that
good
I
to
know
know.
from
That's an
attending the
important
facilities meeting that we are gonna
Yeah,
have some
public
roof
needs to
repairs
know.
done over February vacation.
Yeah,
And so, one of the goals was to identify the source of the funds, and so
I
I
think
just,
one thing, you know, there was two things discussed, whether it was to go with a roofing company to do a major repair, which would be about 13,000, which we decided wasn't probably prudent, because they could turn right around and tear that off this summer. So I think he's looking at some stopgap, relatively inexpensive type repairs that we can proceed with. So that'll be the plan.
for the third grade roof, but it's still
Yeah,
gonna,
a lot
we're
of
still
it's-
gonna fix the kindergarten roof and the high school
No.
roof. No, we're not going to do a patch on the kindergarten roof?
One he talked about, at least for now, is that third grade, which is the one that's most acute at this point, I think, for the immediate patch.
Okay, that's different than what I thought we talked about, okay.
Sounds like they tried to
Well,
fix it, and they just said it was so cold that nothing would stick, so he's kind of
And,
on the third grade.
yeah, in longer term, you mean this summer, yes, we'll need to do something with the kindergarten roof, or we're gonna have to do something, probably replace the third grade roof, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I definitely think
Yeah.
we're gonna have to replace the third grade roof, there's no way to get by it, so.
Yep.
But, I thought there was a leak at the high school that we were gonna, okay, I guess I must have it mixed up, so.
No, I don't.
Third floor, right?
No, fourth floor leak.
Fourth
Yeah,
floor?
over the language room?
Right here, fourth floor leak.
Yeah, I don't.
It's up by the French room.
It says fourth floor leak is on the roofing company's schedule to be addressed that week as well. So I guess I was just wondering about the fund, but it sounds like, Ann, you think it can be from the infrastructure?
Yeah, I have a listing of stuff and I looked through it, Dale had it too, so hopefully he's looked at it. So, I don't think there's enough money there to deal with some of these situations. Okay,
Guess so.
You're
and we
looking
have,
for funding for the roof?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
And we have a policy meeting on Wednesday at 8:30, I'll go with 8:30.
Yep, works for me. 8:39.
No, let's make it 8:30.
6 in the
Good.
morning.
I'm
Okay.
flexible.
All right, superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, state billing aid may be coming back.
Yeah?
Yes,
Dramatic pause.
well, it's true, I think it's true.
Yeah, the, you know, we keep saying there's a number of hoops for it for things to go through, but certainly with the governor, making a provision for that in his initial budget proposal is very, very good news. I think he proposed, 63.7 million, one-time fund to use out of the budget surplus. I talked to Amy Clark the other day, and told her she was probably getting really, really popular after Thursday. She said, yeah, she'd had a few phone calls. But it seems like there's about $15,000 worth of projects that are pretty much already through the process, waiting to be funded. When or if billing aid returned, they've done the things that we've been talking about needing to get done. They have the drawings. These don't involve land acquisitions, so they're property already owned by the schools, so it makes it much more less complicated than what ours is. But bottom line is, there's take the 15 million out of there, there's still a good chunk of money that the next wave of schools then will be able to access. Now, Aaron Hennessy's already on the paper talking about a 4-year process, which I think I'm encouraged about that idea as well, versus the idea, no, we approve these at a biennium. So we approve this first group of schools that have the 15 million, then we do nothing till 2021 and so on, but it doesn't sound like, so again, there's a lot of work to be done. You'll have to go through many processes yet, as we know, but certainly the House Ed Committee has given it 100% support. Now the governor, so it's good news. I am a little concerned about the language property poor versus student population poor. Big difference between the two, because we're definitely well up there, way above the state average, and well up there when it comes to student poverty. We're not what I would call among the extreme property poor. We're certainly not property rich by any means either. We're still on the lower end, but we'll see. So that's
Excuse me, Steve.
mostly good news. Yes, Ralph.
Ralph.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So you have an application in now for state aid, correct?
We do. We've had one in since, I put one in 2016, 17, and 18.
Okay, so when's the next one due for?
If they don't change the rules, they'll be the first app, pre-app is due July 1st, and then the actual app is due in September.
Okay.
So the July 1st is kind of a, what have you done since the last one? And then September is the follow-up.
Okay, you're gonna keep up on those and keep pushing them through?
Oh, yeah. I am. Heck, yeah.
Well, whoever does,
Yep.
whoever does, yeah.
Yep, that would be me. I've been sending them in when there was no hope for aid, so I sure as heck will this time.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I mean, we've got, like I say, we've made a lot of progress. I mean, the very first one I did back in 16 was about 2/3 blank. You know, but a lot of the work we've done since, I'm able now to start to answer these questions. I build in conditions reports and different kinds of reports and so on, so. Yep, we will be watching that very carefully. I was going to talk about cost per pupil tax rates in my superintendent's report, but we already did. One thing that I don't know if Jen mentioned, but kind of stood out to me as I was looking at her report and talking to her a little bit the other day, and the New Hampshire Scholars, and those are students that exceed our graduation requirements. By that, they take 4 science and 4 math and additional courses. 2016, we had 24.5% of our students that fit that category. 2017, 27.9, 2018, it jumped to 37%, and this year it's jumped to 51%. So I think that's significant.
Well, I think kids that had a chance to meet those requirements, because it was sort of a new program, you know, I think it started with
Maybe.
Mrs. Melanson, right? I
Yeah.
mean, she was the one who brought it to that's when I first heard about it from Joanne.
Yeah.
And it was,
So
it's a great, it's
good.
excellent, anything that encourages them to
Yeah.
take rigorous courses, that
Yeah.
is
So
good.
that's I thought was noteworthy. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2.
Question?
What?
I thought there was
Excuse me.
one in the report from us, no?
Go ahead, Ron.
No,
No, under the Lakeway thing, we were gonna talk about Lakeway, the land, but just Lakeway in general. Sorry about that, Ron. So anything you wanna share, please do so.
Well, I don't know that there's anything new. I mean, we have a number of things lined up that most of you are probably aware of. We have an on-air interview with WLTN next Monday. Kim is going to join Tom and I. We've already posted some softball questions to Phil Rivera, so that we don't get in too much trouble. And as was mentioned, the dates have been set for the open house. It's the 27th, week from Wednesday. 2 sessions, one at 1 o'clock, one at 6 o'clock. Senator Starr is committed to come to the 1 o'clock meeting, and Councilor Crines, who comes at the 6 o'clock meeting. Others have been invited. I have not been able to get a hold of Representative French, if anybody knows her.
Elaine French?
Huh?
Are you talking about Elaine French?
Yes.
I know Elaine French because I am part of the Friends of the Library, and meet with them once, first Tuesday of every month. I could get a hold of her for you.
Yeah, if somebody could, I've sent her 2 emails and I got no response.
Is she in the library board?
Yeah, I am too.
Okay, I can get her, I can get you the contact information.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I think I can.
Something other than her state of representative email,
Yeah.
she hasn't responded to
Okay.
that. Okay, letters to the editor, we have several that have been published, including the one from Erin, and she is committed to put multiple letters in the paper as further developments on building aid occur. We have several other letters to the editor that the committee has drafted and will be submitting over the next 2 weeks. We have commitments from the following people to write letters about Lakeway. That includes former board members Jim Mann, Milt Bratz, and Diane Cummings.
Dave Ernsberger just called me and said he's doing one too.
Yeah, Dave is going to do one, and Tony Lockwood is going to do one. I asked Tony to do that kind of from a planning board perspective, how this kind of fits into master plan and that sort of thing. So those letters will be coming over the next couple of weeks. We have provided some information to Robert Bleckel down at the Caledonian on a possible article on state aid. He said he would be willing to do an article as long as there was something new to talk about. So I think the more things we get in the paper, both papers have been very excellent in supporting our submissions. Tom's privately funded blog is established, and he's not here, so I can't tell how many hits he's gotten on that, and whether they were pleasant or not.
What he wrote was really good.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, nicely laid out, I thought.
I thought it was really nicely written.
Also, we have drafted some text for the little industrial park. They had volunteered to pay for an ad in the papers to promote the passage of Article 2. So we've given them some text on that. And we do have plans for Election Day. We'd like to do 2 things. One would be to have an information booth in the penned-in area outside of the building. So if anybody has some last-minute questions about the article, there'll be people there to answer questions. And then we also thought about an exit poll at the far end of the polling area, where we could ask people if they're willing to say whether they voted for or against the article, and if they voted no, we'd like to know why not. We will need some additional manning. That's 2 11-hour operations on election day, so we'll be looking for volunteers to help with that. And what we have decided not to do is to have an on-air interview with the Granite North TV. It was a kind of a budget issue. And we've postponed the planned presentation to the planning board. Upon reflection, I decided maybe we should wait to see how the vote goes, because we may be back a year from now doing the same thing. So if the vote passes, I think and Kyle gets a little bit further along on his plan, we'll go to the planning board. That's it.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much, Ron.
Yeah, the only other thing is, tomorrow morning we got 10 homemade signs going out to say, vote yes, Article 2, support Lakeway Future. They're gonna be put out around town. And on election day, we got one professional sign being made up that's gonna be like 4 feet above everybody else's. Being made up by our teams too, so we're, we got a lot of information going out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone allowed to do a fundraiser to benefit these things that we're looking for money for?
Like a GoFundMe page.
Yep. Citizens can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Board members cannot. The employees can't, but certainly.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question.
You bet.
Okay. Any more comments? Anybody? Okay, motion to go into
You're on,
non-public, please.
Greg.
All right, I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Anything else?
Number 4.
Thank you.
Number 4, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property. Taking with us the superintendent,
Yep.
Patty. Anyone else? That's it?
Second,
Roll call.
Greg Cook?
Leslie Robbins.
Melanie Allison.
Kim Woodson. Ann Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.